My wife mocked my salary after I supported her for years and paid every bill, so I stopped funding her life completely, left quietly, and she finally broke down. I'm a 30-year-old guy, and for most of my life, I genuinely believed that real love meant stepping up, especially financially, when the person you cared about needed stability. Maybe it came from watching my parents struggle, or maybe it was just the way I was raised, but I always felt like being a good partner meant being the one who carried the weight without complaining. When I met Lauren, that belief didn't just deepen, it solidified. She walked into my life during one of the hardest periods of hers, juggling quiet debt, bouncing between unstable jobs, and trying to build a career that never seemed to stay steady. And I remember thinking, if I can be her anchor, why wouldn't I be? I still remember the night she told me she was behind on rent, her voice trembling as she said, I don't want to lose my place again. Something in me reacted instantly. I told her, I've got it. Don't worry, before even thinking it through. It felt good, natural, to step in. Paying her rent, covering groceries, picking up utilities, it all felt like investing in something meaningful, like building the foundation of the life we were going to share. When she'd look at me and say, "You're the most supportive man I've ever met," it lit something in my chest that made every sacrifice seem effortless. Over time, I started paying for more than necessities, her car repairs, her subscriptions, even random shopping treats because she looked stressed. I ignored the tiny shifts in her tone, the moments where gratitude turned into expectation. I brushed off comments like, "You don't mind, right? You always handle it." I told myself this was normal, that love required giving without keeping score. Back then, I had no idea that the support I offered so freely would one day be twisted into something I never expected, something that would cut deeper than any financial strain ever could. I didn't notice the shift at first, how subtle it was, how quietly it slid into our routine like it had always belonged there. But looking back now, I can see exactly when things began to tilt. It was the month Lauren told me she was going to take a break from job hunting because it was draining her mental health. I remember standing in our small kitchen, the faint hum of the refrigerator filling the silence, and hearing her say, "You handle things so well, it just makes sense for you to take the lead financially." She said it so casually, like it was already a fact woven into the fabric of our lives. At first, I didn't question it. I just took a breath and said, "Yeah, I can manage a little longer." And I meant it, at the time. Covering the rent, utilities, groceries, it felt manageable, even if my bank account looked thinner each month. But then came the smaller things, the unplanned deliveries, the salon appointments, the little subscription emails I hadn't signed up for. When I'd bring it up gently, Lauren would sigh and go, "It's not that deep. You know I'll contribute when things stabilize." But things never stabilized. One night, I sat on the edge of our bed scrolling through my banking app, realizing that nearly every outgoing transaction was mine. Lauren walked past, glanced at the screen, and said lightly, "You stress too much. You're supposed to be the grounded one in this relationship." Something about the way she said it, soft, almost dismissive, stuck in my chest like a splinter I couldn't pull out. I started noticing how irritated she'd get when I hesitated before paying for something. How she'd roll her eyes or mutter, "Here we go again," whenever I asked about budgeting. And I kept trying to rationalize it, telling myself, "She's overwhelmed. She's anxious. She just needs support." But a quiet part of me, a part one kept pushing down, began whispering a different truth. She wasn't just relying on me, she was becoming comfortable expecting it. And that expectation was about to grow into something I could never have imagined. The night everything shifted wasn't dramatic at first, it was just a small gathering at a friend's apartment, warm lights, soft music, and people laughing over cheap wine. I remember feeling relaxed for once, relieved to be out of the constant cycle of bills and budgeting, just enjoying a normal evening. Lauren was in a particularly playful mood, talking animatedly with everyone, and for a moment I thought, maybe things are getting better. But then someone asked jokingly how we managed expenses while Lauren wasn't working, and she let out this laugh, sharp, careless, and said, "Oh, his salary is cute, but it gets the job done." The room fell strangely quiet for a second before people let out awkward, half-hearted chuckles. I felt my stomach drop, and I forced a smile, trying to pretend it wasn't a big deal. But inside, something cracked. I looked at her, hoping she'd meet my eyes, maybe give some sign that she realized how deeply that comment cut. Instead, she waved her hand dismissively and added, "He's trying his best, can't expect luxury on his income." The words felt like a slap disguised as a joke. Later that night, when we got home, I tried to bring it up gently. "Lauren, that joke about my salary, why would you say that?" I asked, my voice barely steady. She didn't even look up from her phone. "You're overreacting," she said flatly. "It was just banter. Stop being sensitive." I stood there in the dim hallway light, feeling this tightness in my chest, trying to process how easily she dismissed something that humiliated me. It wasn't just the words, it was how natural they sounded coming from her, like she'd thought them long before she said them. I went to bed that night staring at the ceiling, replaying the moment over and over, realizing it wasn't the joke that hurt, it was the truth behind it. And deep down, I knew this wasn't the last time she'd make me feel small. After that night, something in Lauren changed, or maybe something in me finally woke up enough to notice. The comments didn't stay subtle, they sharpened over time. I'd be sitting at the table paying bills, and she'd glance over my shoulder and say, "You know, if you pushed yourself a little harder, we wouldn't have to budget so tightly." She said it casually, like she was giving helpful advice, but every word landed like a quiet accusation. And the worst part was how normal it started to feel. I remember one morning when she was scrolling through social media, pausing at a post about a couple traveling through Europe. "Imagine having a husband who plans trips like this," she murmured, not even bothering to hide the implication. I looked up from packing my lunch for work and said softly, "We can save for something like that." She didn't miss a beat before replying, "Yeah, but at this rate? Maybe in 10 years. The knife was always disguised as honesty. Lauren also stopped pretending to job hunt. Every time I asked if she'd considered applying somewhere new, she'd respond with irritation. "Why are you pressuring me? You handle things fine. Let me breathe." And because I didn't want to fight, I'd nod and swallow the frustration burning in my throat. But she didn't just avoid work, she avoided responsibility entirely. Packages kept arriving, shopping bags filled the closet, and every time I asked about an unexpected charge, she'd shrug and say, "Don't be dramatic. It's not like we're broke." What started as small hints of entitlement turned into blatant disregard. She expected things, new clothes, dinners out, fixes for her car, without ever acknowledging the strain it put on me. And whenever I hesitated, even for a moment, her whole demeanor shifted. The eye rolls. The sighs. The cold, clipped tone. If I can't rely on my own husband, then what's the point? Each comment chipped away at something I didn't realize was fragile, my sense of worth. And though I tried to ignore it, a quiet, heavy dread began forming in my chest. Somewhere deep down, I already knew she wasn't done hurting me. The moment that changed everything didn't happen during a fight or some dramatic confrontation, it happened on a random Tuesday afternoon. I came home early from work because a meeting was canceled, and as I walked up the stairs, I heard Lauren talking on speakerphone in our bedroom. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but the tone of her voice, sharp, irritated, nothing like the softness she used on me, made me pause in the hallway. Her sister asked something about our finances, and Lauren sighed loudly before saying, "Honestly?" I settled. I thought he'd be further in his career by now. My heart dropped. I felt frozen, my hands still on the banister as she continued, "I just thought marrying someone responsible meant I'd get the life I deserve. But he's average. And I'm tired of living like this." Her sister murmured something, and Lauren added, "I swear, sometimes I think being with him is holding me back. If he made more, I wouldn't have to deal with any of this stress." I remember staring at the carpet beneath my feet, feeling something inside me twist painfully. It wasn't the insult, it was the honesty in her voice. She wasn't joking this time, or trying to get a reaction. She meant every word. I stepped back quietly, my chest tight, and walked outside to breathe, the cool air hitting my face like a slap. All this time, I thought she appreciated my sacrifices. I thought she understood what I carried for both of us. When she finally came downstairs later and saw me sitting on the couch, she smiled like nothing had happened. "You're home early," she said sweetly, leaning down to kiss my cheek. I forced a smile, pretending I hadn't just heard the truest thing she'd ever said about me. But something shifted inside me that day, subtle but irreversible. I stopped seeing us as a team. I started seeing myself as someone she tolerated until something better came along. And for the first time, I wondered how long she had secretly felt that way. After hearing those words, something inside me went quiet, not angry, not defensive, just still. I didn't confront her, didn't ask for an explanation, didn't tell her what I'd overheard. Instead, I watched. I listened. I let the truth settle. And once the shock faded, all that remained was clarity. I had been loving someone who didn't value me beyond what I provided. So I pulled back, slowly and quietly, like a person stepping away from the edge of a cliff. When she asked me to transfer money for her salon appointment, I said, "Not right now. I need to look at our budget." Her head snapped up, irritation flashing across her face. "Since when?" she asked sharply. I just shrugged and said, "Since now. Things are tight." She stared at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. The next week, she asked for money to upgrade her phone. "We'll wait on that," I said calmly. "It's not a necessity." She scoffed, rolling her eyes. "God, you're acting like we're broke. It's just a phone." But this time, I didn't justify myself. I didn't explain. I didn't bend. And the more I didn't bend, the more frustrated she became. She started throwing out comments, little jabs meant to sting. "I miss when you weren't stingy. You used to be generous. What happened to you?" I didn't rise to any of them. I just let them fall. Inside, though, every word confirmed what I already knew. She didn't miss me, she missed the version of me that handed over money without blinking. The version she could mold and manipulate with a soft tone or a well-timed compliment. I found myself sitting in the dark some nights, staring at the ceiling, thinking, what would happen if I stopped trying altogether? If I stopped cushioning her world? If I stepped back and let her stand on her own? Because the truth was becoming impossible to ignore, she expected the support she once praised. And I was slowly realizing I didn't owe her that version of myself anymore. But even I didn't expect what would happen when I fully withdrew. It didn't take long for my quiet withdrawal to collide with Lauren's growing resentment like two storms meeting in the middle of our living room. One night, she burst through the door after spending the day out and tossed her purse onto the couch so hard the contents spilled across the floor. "Why is the electric bill past due?" she snapped, waving the notice in my face. I stayed seated, my voice steady as I said, "Because I'm not covering everything anymore, Lauren. We both live here." The silence that followed wasn't just tense, it was electric, crackling with something dark. She stepped closer, her voice rising. "Unbelievable. I married a man who can't even keep the lights on." I felt something inside me twist, but I kept my composure. "I kept the lights on for years," I said quietly. "Alone." She laughed, this bitter, dismissive sound. "Yeah, and look where that got us. Maybe if your salary wasn't so pathetic, we wouldn't be in this mess." That was the moment everything snapped. Not on the outside, on the inside. Hearing her spit out the very thing I'd feared she believed, confirming it with no hesitation, it was like watching our entire marriage collapse into a pile of brutally honest rubble. For the first time, I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I just whispered, "Is that really how you see me?" She didn't answer. She didn't have to. She kept going, pacing, ranting, tearing into every sacrifice I'd ever made. "You think covering rent makes you some hero? You think doing the bare minimum makes you a provider?" Each word felt like a blow I couldn't dodge. At one point, she even muttered, "I should have married someone with actual ambition." I didn't yell. I didn't fight back. I just sat there, feeling the air leave my lungs in slow, painful waves. That was the night I realized I wasn't just unloved, I was unwanted, unappreciated, and in her eyes, inadequate. And as she stormed off, slamming the bedroom door behind her, one thought settled into place with terrifying clarity: I couldn't stay in this marriage much longer. After that night, something inside me finally shut off. Not in anger, not in heartbreak, just in acceptance. I woke up the next morning, stared at the ceiling for a long, heavy minute, and realized I was done pouring into a cup with a hole in the bottom. Lauren moved around the house like nothing had happened, humming while she made coffee, scrolling through her phone like she hadn't torn me apart word by word the night before. And the strangest part was how easy it was to pretend right alongside her. I matched her tone, her rhythm, her casual small talk, while inside, I quietly began detaching from every part of the life we'd built. The first step was separating our finances. I opened a private bank account on my lunch break, the fluorescent lights buzzing above me as I typed in my information with shaking hands. I rerouted my direct deposit. I canceled the auto payments she depended on, her car insurance, her subscription boxes, even the membership for her yoga studio she hadn't gone to in months. Each cancellation felt like reclaiming a piece of myself I didn't know I'd given away. At home, I became deliberate, tracking expenses, noting every charge that wasn't mine. Lauren didn't notice. She was too comfortable, too secure in the belief that I would always be her financial cushion. Sometimes she'd toss her card at me and say, "Can you cover this? I'll pay you back later." I'd nod, take the card, and quietly place it back on the counter. "We'll figure it out," I'd say vaguely, giving her nothing. Emotionally, the distance grew wider. I stopped trying to appease, stopped explaining, stopped softening myself to prevent her irritation. And the more I pulled away, the less she seemed to sense it, because she never looked closely enough to notice anything that wasn't directly serving her. But while she floated through the days, unaware, I was preparing for something she never imagined I'd do. I was getting ready to leave this marriage behind. And soon, she would feel the ground shift beneath her for the first time. The day everything shifted wasn't marked by a fight or a dramatic moment, it began in complete silence. I woke up early, earlier than usual, and sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open, staring at the spreadsheet I'd built over the past few weeks. Every bill. Every subscription. Every unnecessary expense Lauren had piled onto my shoulders. I took a deep breath, hovered my cursor over the final auto payment, and clicked cancel. It felt like cutting a cord I'd been tied to for years. By noon, the fallout began. Lauren's first call came while I was still at work. "Why is my card declining?" she asked, her voice sharp and confused. I kept my tone calm. "I'm not covering your personal expenses anymore, Lauren." There was a long pause, then a scoff. "Excuse me? Since when?" "Since now," I said quietly. "You're responsible for your own spending." She didn't take it well. When I got home, she was pacing the living room, holding her phone like it had betrayed her. "My car payment bounced," she snapped. "And the internet bill wasn't paid." "What are you doing?" I set my keys down, steadying myself. "I paid my half. The rest is on you." Her eyes widened with disbelief, as if I'd just spoken a language she'd never heard. "Your half? Are you serious right now?" I nodded. Dead serious. She kept waiting for me to cave, for the old version of me to step in, apologize, fix everything. When I didn't, panic slowly replaced anger. She flipped through her banking app, realizing she had nothing, no savings, no emergency fund, no plan. Because for years, I had been the plan. Her voice finally cracked. "I can't afford this on my own." "I know," I said softly. "That's the point." For the first time, she saw the reality she'd been sheltered from, the cost of her own choices landing squarely on her shoulders. And while she scrambled to regain control, she still had no idea what my next step would be. Because I wasn't done. Not even close. The night before I left, the house felt strangely peaceful, too peaceful, like the calm before a storm no one else could feel coming. Lauren was in the bedroom scrolling on her phone, oblivious, muttering under her breath about overdue bills and how stressful life had suddenly become. I watched her from the doorway for a moment, realizing she still believed this was temporary, that any second now, I would swoop in, fix everything, and reset the world she'd grown comfortable taking for granted. But I felt nothing. No urge to comfort, no guilt, no hesitation. Just a quiet certainty that staying would destroy whatever was left of me. Around midnight, while she slept, I packed. Not dramatically, not frantically, carefully. Deliberately. I took my essentials, clothes, documents, laptop, the few things in the house that were actually mine. The hum of the streetlights through the window felt louder than usual, like they were watching me walk out of a life I'd spent years holding together with my bare hands. I remember pausing at the bedroom door one last time, looking at her sleeping figure, and thinking, she's going to wake up and realize the world she built on my back is gone. Before leaving, I placed a letter on the kitchen counter, 3 pages, handwritten, steady and calm. I didn't attack her. I didn't name-call. I simply explained everything she refused to hear when I said it out loud, how her disrespect hollowed me out, how her dependence turned into entitlement, how the version of me she loved never really existed, only the version who funded her life. And at the end, I wrote one sentence I knew she'd never expect: I'm choosing myself now. At 3:14 a.m., I locked the door behind me and walked away from the apartment we once called ours. By sunrise, I was checked into a small, quiet place across town, my phone on Do Not Disturb, my account secured, my life finally, my own. Lauren still had no idea where I was. But she was about to feel the full weight of my absence. The messages started pouring in before noon, missed calls, voicemails, texts that swung wildly between anger and desperation. I kept my phone face down on the nightstand in that small rented room, letting each vibration fade into silence. By the time I finally checked, the screen was filled with notifications. Where are you? This isn't funny. The landlord is threatening eviction. Her panic bled through every word. And for the first time in years, I felt nothing but a strange, weightless clarity. A mutual friend reached out that afternoon. "Dude, she's unraveling," he said quietly. "She thought you were bluffing. She didn't think you'd actually leave." I didn't say much, just listened as he explained how Lauren had shown up at his place crying, insisting she'd been abandoned without warning. But the more she talked, the clearer it became to everyone listening: she had no idea how to function without someone carrying her. "Man," he added, "she's realizing she built her whole life on your paycheck." Meanwhile, Lauren was scrambling. She applied for jobs she wasn't qualified for, panicked when interviewers asked about her employment gaps, and even called her sister asking for money. I later learned her sister finally snapped and told her the truth no one else had dared to say: "You treated him like a bank, Lauren. What did you expect?" Hearing that hit me harder than I expected, because for once, someone else saw it too. Her tone shifted after that. The texts turned from accusations to apologies. "I'm sorry, please come home. I didn't mean what I said. I can change." One voicemail cracked halfway through as she whispered, "I didn't realize how much you did for me, please just talk to me." But I wasn't ready, not yet. I had spent so long drowning quietly that I needed space to breathe, to hear my own thoughts without her voice crowding them. And even as the messages grew more frantic, more emotional, more raw, I felt a strange calm settle over me. Because for the first time, Lauren was facing the life she'd built without my support. And she still had no idea what I would say when I finally agreed to meet her. When I finally agreed to meet Lauren, it wasn't out of hope or curiosity, it was because I needed closure, the kind that doesn't come through voicemails or frantic apologies. We met at a small cafe near my new place, the kind with dim lighting and soft music that makes people speak quietly, even when they're falling apart. I walked in and saw her at a corner table, shoulders hunched, eyes red like she hadn't slept in days. For a moment, I almost didn't recognize her, not because she looked different, but because for the first time, she wasn't performing. She was just human. Tired. Scared. And completely unprotected by the comfort she used to hide behind. When I sat down, she looked up like she was afraid I might vanish if she blinked. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, her voice trembling. I didn't realize how much I relied on you. I didn't realize how much I hurt you. I listened, not because I wanted her to justify anything, but because I needed to hear whether she actually understood. She kept talking, apologizing, explaining, crying softly into her hands. I took you for granted, she said through broken breaths. I thought you'd always be there. I thought I deserved more, and I don't know why. There was a time when her tears would have shattered me. But now, they just washed over me like rain on glass. I took a slow breath and said, I'm not here to hurt you. I'm not here for revenge. But I can't go back to the person I was with you. She looked up, eyes widening. Are you saying it's over? I nodded. Yeah. It has to be. For both of us. She broke down, silently this time, shoulders shaking. But I stayed steady, not cold, just resolved. I wished her well, stood up, and walked out into the cool air, feeling lighter than I had in years. And as I walked away, I realized something powerful. Sometimes the strongest revenge isn't destruction, it's choosing yourself, finally and unapologetically, after years of choosing someone else.